Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Jonathan Shepard, host of Ask the Doctors broadcast. I am so glad to be with you all once again on another Friday evening. We are starting just a little bit late, and I'll explain to you as to why that is. But glad you are joining us. Go ahead, share, like this video. Come on in and join us for another inspirational and enlightening conversation. This is the Friday, the first. I'm sorry, this is the second Friday, January 8th. Wow, isn't it amazing? 8 days in. Let me tell you, some people have already said they want a refund. they said they'd already tried the 7-day trial of 2021 and they want another they want their money back. Isn't that something? I will say this, and as you see, Andrea Brown is here with me today. Typically, I come on by myself, but I wanted her to be with me today. She's the executive director of the Black Mental Health Alliance, and she serves along with me with this non-for-profit organization that is geared toward the mental wellness of people of color, in particular, Black people. And so we want just to address just so many of the issues that are ongoing. Let me tell you, just because we entered a new calendar year does not mean that we are in a new season. And this year has already proven to bear that out. I must admit, I am exhausted. This week was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow. And Andrea, I want you to come on in because for so many of the people of color, Black, this has been a tough week for them. And I wanted to start the show off this week just talking about just some resources that we can provide for the people. First of all, how you doing, Andrea?
Thank you, Dr. Shepard, for having me, obviously, and thank you for being sensitive to this moment. So it is interesting that you ask how I'm doing because personally and professionally, we've gotten heightened calls and emails about how do I talk to my children? What does this look like for us? Are we back at it again? And so I have to tell you, personally, it's no secret I have a 16-year-old, and so we are ever mindful of what he sees and how we help him process that, but then how we process it. And so it has been, I'm in a much better space today than I was 2 days ago, than I was last night. And so, again, kudos to you for your sensitivity for this, because not just your particular podcast, but we've been invited, the staff, to like 3 others, to have this very discussion. And so I'm doing okay. I like your thought about the trial for 2021. That's funny. But it's been more than a notion.
Yeah, it really has. And so I know with that said, I want to make sure that people are doing okay. I've seen that some people are joining us. Please, if you're joining us today, go ahead and write in the comment section that you're watching. But I want to also greet the people who are going to watch this episode. We have so many people who go back and watch replays. It's just amazing. So, even for our guests who are there, we want to make sure we're sharing and liking this particular video. But Andrea, I just wanted to jump off and just give some solutions. How can they contact the Black Mental Health Alliance? How can they reach out to resources? We're not going to just talk about the problems. We know what the problems are.
That's right.
You gotta be solution based. So
absolutely. So they can reach the Black Mental Health Alliance either through our website at www. Black Mental Health Alliance, or through our phone. We answer it all the time. We respond back. 410-338-2642. And I'm going to make sure I share with you and on our website, there is a resource page where they can get additional resources, and I'll make sure that you have access to those as well. But if I could, again, I like what you said. We know what the problems are. But let me just share with you two of the questions that people have been asking, and what our response has been. And what is it should we tell our children? Or what is it should we tell our young people? And so what we've said is tell them the truth. And the truth, as hard as it is to bear, tell them the truth, that there is a divided America. And as a result, this is what we see. Tell them that they had a temper tantrum on the other day. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Tell them and remind them, when you have a temper tantrum, this is what happens when you don't have control. And then also, I think it's important, even to our amazing co-laborers in this struggle, to talk about white privilege to your children. They've got to know what that looks like and what that means. And so again, there's several grassroots crisis hotline that we can make sure that they have access to. And again, all of this is available through our website. And the second question is, what should we tell our children? And then what practical ways can we help them? If they don't want to talk to somebody, ask them to color. Talk to them about there's power in music. There are several websites that I will make sure that you have access to so that young people get to hear music and adults. There's a whole notion around music and what that means in terms of therapy and soothing. And then the other part, we've talked to people about just asking them to get to a quiet place and meditate. And then once they've done that, then come back and lay it out. We got a call earlier from WEAA asking some of the same sort of questions about people are asking, what should we tell our children? What should we tell ourselves? And again, make sure that we tell ourselves the truth. And the narrative will change, but we get in front of the narrative for our children. We get in front of the narrative for. So those are the kinds of things that we're making, again, available to people. We're being consistent with our messages. There is a crisis hotline in Baltimore County as well as the city. I'll make sure that I'll put those in the chat and make sure that you have those. So I'll put in a number of those. So, but I think, again, we've said it twice. We've said, tell them the truth, right? And get in front of the narrative. And don't sugarcoat it. You've got to do that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
I thought it was imperative that we have you on today just to address this particular issue. And so I think that the fact that today's show is really going to address youth and young adults today. I'm going to bring on our special guests that we have with us today. And I'm very excited about having them. And hopefully I see those out there have already started sharing the links. They started sharing the phone numbers, Black Mental Health Alliance. This is just one of the organizations, but this is an important organization that I think will help you in the midst of this crisis. Yes, we're still in a crisis. Yes, we're still in the midst of a pandemic. So I want to hear what others are doing, in particular, our young adults, our young, bright minds. And so I am privileged to bring on two scholars who are giants in their own rights. And so I'm going to bring on a friend of mine, Dr. Terrell Strayhorn, and let's bring him on in here. Hey, sir.
Hello there, Dr. Shepard. My pleasure to be here. Special thanks and shout out to you for this wonderful episode or this wonderful show, Ask the Doctor. Glad to be here. Looking forward to an enlightening discussion and really enjoyed what was shared earlier about the resources. This is a hard time for folks, but I'm looking forward to talking about what we're doing and what we're witnessing and how we can pull together, be stronger, and get through this.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what you do before I bring on the other guests, all right?
Absolutely. So good evening, good day for those who will watch this episode of the recording later. I'm Terrell Strayhorn, the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at Virginia Union University, where I'm also a Professor of Education and direct the Center for the Study of HBCUs. Like many other executive leaders of campuses right now, working. Our classes start on Monday for our spring term. And so right now we're working to make sure that our students are ready, our faculty are ready to reopen campus. I'll talk a little bit in the discussion, I hope, about our plan for that and how other institutions are doing it. But over the years and throughout my career, I've really focused on how to support more students, especially students who are placed at risk or vulnerable populations, to be successful at college campuses, and have an unapologetic focus on, Black students and Black colleges and students who have always really tried to make a dollar out of 15 cents to get there. And COVID, has presented new challenges. And so like so many, we're trying to think about how to bring the best of science and research to practice to really support our students and our institutions through this unprecedented time.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Wow, you said a mouthful, and that is, man, I am really anxious to get into this conversation. So let's bring on our next guest. I've known him a long time, but he is a giant in his field, and this is Dr. Rodney Parker. Come on in, Dr. Parker, and tell us a little bit about yourself. So glad that you are with us on this broadcast.
Good evening, Dr. Shepard, Dr. Strayhorn. Very glad to be with your viewing audience on this evening. This is just, it's been a tremendous week. It's just really been a tremendous week. And it was our first week back. The students are not back yet, but it was our first week back. I serve as the Assistant Dean of Undergraduate and Graduate Studies at Loyola University, Maryland, right here in Baltimore. And I've been at Loyola for approximately 18 years. My background was in multicultural affairs. I did almost 15 years in multicultural affairs before moving into the academic affairs division. And this has been a very interesting time. The last almost 10 months have been just extremely, I was fairly new on the job. And so you think that people are onboarding you for one thing, and then a pandemic happens, and then no one knows what to do. You're trying to create policies that are both equitable and that will meet the needs of students from many different backgrounds. And so these are very important things. Let me just say this week was an up down situation. I wasn't expecting Wednesday to happen the way that it did, and with the word coming back, no charges for the police who shot Jacob Blake. Yeah, so it was just so much going on, and I think it's left a lot for us to have to try to process. The good part about it is that we don't have to process it all and make full meaning of it, but we definitely need to take it chunk by chunk, just to try to make sure that we are sort of get some understanding of what's happening. And all that with the backdrop of the pandemic, so all the plans and things that have been put in place by our institution and other institutions to try to see if we can have students on campus. We're definitely going in that direction for the spring semester. And having them come early, and then having a period where it's a restricted period so we can get baseline testing for them. It's just a lot. It's just a lot that's going on. But I'm very grateful tonight to be a part of this conversation. So thank you so much for having me, Dr. Shepard.
Absolutely, absolutely. As you can see, both of them have so much that even in the intros, they are just ready. And so let's kick it off. I'm just looking at what we had originally discussed as what our conversation was going to be about, and then January 6th occurred, where we had a rampage. It's not even a riot; it was a rampage. It was an assault against the democracy of our country, and it was not just something that we can just tiptoe past or whatever, sweep under the rug, whatever your expression is that you want to utilize there. 4 people died. It might be up to 5 people died. And that is atrocity. That's the word I use, travesty. So Dr. Strayhorn, what are you hearing? And again, you can even you've given some of your own emotions and some of your feelings, but I want to hear what are the young adults, and I realize also that young adults are not the only people who go to college. So please,
That's right.
don't get on me. All right, but I want to hear what I should just say the college community. What are they saying? What are you hearing right now?
It's a great question. And so first, I want to echo what Dr. Parker shared, and that is just compliments to you for having for making time for this really important discussion. Because what we've witnessed, I mean, we're going to pick January 6th, right? Because January 6th was, it will go down, as they said, as a day of infamy. There will be textbooks, many books and articles written about January 6th, but we also have the opportunity to look back even a bit further. I mean, we can go back to November. We can go back to, a number of instances over. I mean, you just got to ask yourself, like, what? So I'll answer the question that you've asked, and that is, what am I seeing? I think for me personally, I am feeling the weight of all of this, because personally, right, you can look at the screen and tell, I hope, that I am a Black man. And so there are messages that I've picked up from all of these incidents that shape how I feel about my own personal safety and the personal safety of my family. That is really important. But, I even have to move it a step further, that even in the role of provost and senior vice president, I have thought about, would be lying if I did not admit that I had to, on the 6th, I asked my team, tell me when you're leaving campus. Let me know when you're leaving the building. I do not want you to leave and walk out on your own. I want you to know, I want you to let me know when you make it home. And I'm in Richmond, Virginia, which is, if you rush, it's about an hour and a half from DC. But I'm in the state of Virginia, no matter what. So the state of Virginia, because of Northern Virginia, our governor did set a curfew for that Northern Virginia corridor. And so you hear about it in this area. And, and while I'm thinking about my team, because our campus is not reopened for the spring semester, we'll do that on Monday. We have no students on campus, but I'm thinking now about our students. And here's what I'm already hearing from some of them. I mean, we're long-standing, 1865 established, historically Black college in Richmond, Virginia, and committed to training and educating the next generation of leaders, right? And proudly can say that the 101 historically Black colleges in this nation, who collectively educate 300,000 students, are disproportionately responsible for training Black leaders. 80% of federal judges came from HBCUs. 50% of elected members of Congress, Black elected members of Congress, came from HBCUs. 30% of Black engineers came from HBCUs. The only place that you can say this, 100% came from an HBCU, right? So HBCUs play this important role of training the next generation. So you start here, learning your messages about exactly what you said, Dr. Shepard. What does democracy look like? How do I participate in it? And what I'm already starting to hear from our students is we are sending conflicting messages to the next generation about what democracy is, about what kind of behaviors will be tolerated by whom, under which circumstances. And we're going to be held responsible as a nation for these conflicting messages, that some people's lives are being perceived as more important than others, that some people's behaviors are more tolerated than others, that you might be able to, I appreciate what you said, it's an assault against democracy, but let's stop at the first word. It was an assault on January 6th, which is it is a chargeable offense by our law. And when we say we're not going to press charges, or we're going to exonerate those who were involved in it, we are sending messages about what kind of behavior will be tolerated by whom, under what conditions, and ultimately we will be held responsible when some people call us to the carpet of that and hold accountable for it. But then when we go down the road and someone tries what they saw exemplified, and we should not be confused when people try it, right? Because we just sent a message on November 6th that January 6th that you can get away with it.
Right.
That you can break into, the Capitol and you can vandalize government property, and that you can assault people and take over their offices, and you don't have to be held accountable. I gotta ask us as a nation, are we ready for that to be the message that the next generation inherits and holds on to and even acts upon? I'll stop there because I know that Dr. Parker is going to add on to it, but I want to hear us think about that because, for those who teach, it's not just those who teach political science, it's everybody who teaches, period. In a couple of weeks, this is what students want to talk about.
Yep.
You told me it was not right for me to do this. You told me that I had rights. You told me that democracy works. You told me that my vote matters. And now we've got to sit with the reality that, at least the last 4 years, maybe even longer, but the last 4 years have sent some contradicting messages that we've got to deal with in the classroom to get people ready for the next.
Absolutely. Dr. Parker, jump on in here.
Oh, well, I want to start where Dr. Strayhorn started. He started talking about the word safety. It's interesting. I'm an affiliate faculty member teaching theology, and I'm not teaching this semester, but one of the things that one student commented about is on Fridays, I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I usually say, okay, have a good weekend and be safe. But at the end of my individual meetings that I've been having this week, and I would say to students and also to some of my colleagues, I said, be safe. And that had so many different meanings. Before, it was be safe, just take care of yourself. And now, with the pandemic coming, it was be safe. Like, you got to be very careful, make sure you're vigilant and you're doing what you're supposed to do. And then, now it's like your personal safety, like beyond just I could catch the virus or whatever the case is. It's really one of those things that people are thinking about. I had a chance to talk to one of my mentees, and it was very interesting. He was like, it's not different from what I sort of expected. I think it's very interesting how I don't like to think that it's intergenerational, because I don't think I'm that much older than them, but I am old enough to be their father. But when they start to say, I didn't expect more. I don't think it was a coincidence for it to happen on a day when some important work was being done, and the lack of security was also a part of this. And so it's like, listening to them, and he wasn't being cynical. He's very bright, but he definitely wanted, he was like, I know that if this had been a Black Lives Matter protest, we would never have gotten to the steps of the Capitol. We would have been, brutalized before getting that far. And so the ways in which people are sort of engaging this, I was thinking about the tweet that former First Lady Michelle Obama, that she said, the ways in which people are being affected by this, it's almost like this collective trauma that we've been going through since we could say like George Floyd, but it really was before George Floyd and before Trayvon Martin. This collective trauma that has been happening, and we've been trying to figure out how to keep pace. And I'm grateful for our forefathers and foremothers, because they really gave us some skills about survival in ways in which sometimes these young people, they didn't understand, like, well, why didn't y'all do this back in I wasn't in the 60s, but why didn't y'all do this in the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s, or why didn't you do this? But they have to understand that justice makes slow progress. It makes very slow progress to get you to the point where you can do this. Wednesday was just, I felt like I had been sold from my civics classes back when I was a child. I felt like they sold me, like just a bunch of untruths. Like, I never would have thought that anybody would storm the Capitol. I never thought that they would do it. But if they were going to do it, they were going to be white. I never thought that Black people were going to be able to storm the Capitol. I never thought they would be able to interrupt a process as important as getting the electoral votes. those kinds of things. So when you ask me, what am I seeing, and also what am I feeling, and what am I hearing? I agree with Dr. Strayhorn, these conflicting messages, but they've always been conflicting. They've always been conflicting. It's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to count you as 3/5 of a human. So does that mean I'm not a human? I'm just 3/5 of you. So it's always these conflicting messages that we've gotten throughout time. And I'm very glad that we have spaces where we can have these conversations so that we can get the help that we need to sort of help us to not only survive, but also thrive. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is good. I'm going to just take a quick 10-second pause here and just thank the people who are out there who are watching. Thank you for the comments that you're sending. But I want you to share this video because this is therapy for somebody. This is therapeutic for somebody as we talk about it. I wouldn't necessarily call it quote unquote therapy. It may be talk therapy, but sometimes when you hear that other people are going through what you're going through and feeling what you're feeling, it helps normalize. And I hate to even use that word, man. Even when I just said that just made me feel kind of weird that I gotta normalize being traumatized and feeling heavy and feeling down. I tell you, because this is a heavy season. I go back to what I said earlier. Just because this is now 2021, so many of us were like, yes, this is a new year, yes, and we are now still experiencing worse, if you don't mind me saying that, traumas. The pandemic has not slowed down. It has gotten worse. We actually experienced here in Maryland the worst day for hospitalizations. I believe it's the second highest, or maybe even the highest. Over the last 24 hours, we've had 4,300 people die from the coronavirus. And we also had an assault that was staged or enforced by our current president, and potentially he could be removed from office. 10 days, something like that, maybe no, a little bit more, 12 days, something like that, before he has to vacate the office, and just now said that he would do it. That's nonsense. You lost the election in November, and you're just saying right now that you're going to prepare for smooth transition of power. All right, I don't want to digress too much, but if I did that, even as my role as chief medical director, I would be able to find a job. I want to wait till 2 weeks before I want to leave in a disarray. Oh man, you better believe I'll be blackballed. But anyway, what I want to talk about is how do we now prepare our youth, our young adults, those who are going to college. And again, I feel guilty every time I say that because there's more than just youth and young adults who are in college. So please forgive me for saying that again. But how do we prepare them? What safety measures, what things do you have in place to now, help relieve the anxiety, the fear, even the angst that they are talking about? And I want to talk about this because someone else can get some ideas, some recommendations, and hopefully, as we're hearing about them, they'll be able to implement some of those things. And that's one of the reasons why we started the show the way in which we did, because we want to be solution focused, solution based. So, Dr. Strayhorn, I know as Provost, Senior Vice President, I know there's been some discussions as to what things to put in place for those returning back to campus. And I do even want to get back to that. It's kind of like a part B. Like, do you even go back to campus in the middle of a pandemic? That's what I really want to talk about today, but I couldn't just do that and ignore the Capitol Rampage. But I'm just like, do you go back? Because if you look at me as a scientist, I'm like, I don't know if I would send people back to a college campus. So if you want to address one or just both, take it away.
Let's tackle both. We're up for it, right, Dr. Parker? So I think the first part of it is, with respect to all that's going on right now, there are a number of supports, right? So one, our message, and it gets played out through our policies and our programs at the university level. But I mean, to all of those who are listening in the audience or who will watch the recording, I don't know what your various station in life is, but I will say, to echo what we've already talked about, one, if you're feeling anxious, you're not alone. If you are feeling unsure and threatened, you are not alone. That it is okay to be uncertain right now. It is okay to feel that this is unfair, because it is. There's just simply no way of getting around it. I was thinking back to what Dr. Parker shared, and the other day, so many of my friends we were on FaceTime, we were on the phones, we were on whatever, social media, talking about what happened on the 6th. And people kept saying, now, if that was a Black person, they would have never got, and just fill in the blank. I mean, I have not to this. Listen, if you are in the listening audience and you feel that someone who is a person of color could have pulled it off, please put it in the comments, because I just want one witness somewhere in the nation. I haven't found it nowhere in the globe. So for me, that is the problem, right? That one, we all know that is the reality, that there were folks who are privileged to do what was done. I echo what Dr. Gina put in the chat. It seems awfully staged and ordered and structured, because, I was looking at some, I want to go back to what you said, Dr. Parker. You were like, I didn't know, because they said you couldn't get that close to the Capitol at some point, but whatever, right? I always imagined that I never thought about the Capitol, but I thought if a group were to overtake the White House or I always imagined it being much larger in size than what it was yesterday. In fact, we all got to witness this summer protests all across this country that were way larger than that. And somehow it seemed the police and the National Guard were able to prevent people from overtaking spaces and buildings. But yesterday, or the 6th, a relatively small group of people were able to wreak havoc. And so, and some of the videos, I wish they would stop replaying them, because it just shows how porous the buildings were. I mean, it was almost like, in some cases, this is my opinion, I own it. It is not the opinion of my university, but I felt like people were getting out of the way to let people in. I felt like sometimes people were moving the guardrails to allow them in. I saw one thing on an episode on a network that I won't name, where it looked like the cop was running past the person. I thought, well, you're not getting in the way to prevent them from doing it. And so why do I think this is important is because you can't watch that. The problem with watching it is our bodies are wired, right? That we watch stuff or we experience stuff, and that's not the problem that we watched it. The problem is we're then left to make meaning of what we watched. And what happens is, all across the country, people watch those episodes and you say, well, now, if that had been me or someone who looked like me, I could have never pulled that off. And the meaning you're making of it is, my life is not as protected. My life is not as valued. I am not safe in my own skin. And that is a problem. So I think that raises the anxiety level, that raises the fear level. What we're doing is making sure that we provide support through our counseling center, that we're providing support through telehealth services, that students can use their gadgets, their cell phones, their iPads, and reach out and get support. If you are in the listening audience and you need support, please watch the beginning of the episode, listen to the resources that are available, because this is the time where you need to, I know, COVID has us 6 feet apart and wearing masks and washing our hands and, quite honestly, fearful of one another. But this is a point in time where we actually need community. So we've got to figure out, how do we create community while we are 6 feet apart? And social media and Zoom and phones are really important. I'll then close by saying, here's the point I want to make for folks who are thinking about the pandemic and do you go back? We're talking about privilege, right? January 6th was a display of privilege. Let me tell you this. Some institutions in this country are not as privileged to think about not reopening. For some institutions, let me just, you're dependent on the revenue for on-campus housing. and for tuition dollars and for all of the services that, at fee services that you provide on campus. And so, we're really blessed. Last semester, we had a reduced population on campus, but we did have students living on campus. We were able to put together a really comprehensive strategy of how we would protect the campus. Students had to wear, everyone had to wear masks. We sanitized the campus, had a heightened pace of cleaning the campus. Everyone was screened at the gate as you come into campus. We check your temperature. Faculty check temperatures of students in the classroom. We reduced the number of on-campus classes. We had 3/4 of our instruction online, virtual. And because of those strategies, we were able to mitigate the risk associated with it and keep our threshold. We did have some cases, but we did not have a breakout. And we were able to make it through our fall semester. That is our plan for the spring semester, that we'll bring back a reduced number of students living on campus, put those same protective measures in place, and make it through the spring break. We canceled fall break in the fall because we couldn't have students go home and then come back and bring all of that with them. So we've had to make a tough decision, but an important decision to cancel spring break. So students will not have a spring break. We'll go straight through. We will end the semester a week earlier, but ultimately we're doing all of that so that we can have students come back on campus, live on campus, and make it through a successful spring semester.
Wow. Wow. Dr. Parker?
Yeah, so very similar to what you said. I want to start where you started about privilege, and seeing the ways in which people were moving about in the people's capital, and what people. So we have to ask those questions. Who were the people that were allowed to do this? Which goes back to this notion of white privilege. The majority of the people that I saw on the news, they appeared to be white. And so, and then when you see like some of the things they were able to do, like go into offices and just kind of stage photos and things like that. It's clear that there is, a double standard in how people are treated, Who is American? Asking that question. What does it mean to be American? How's that related to our democracy? And, I'm just curious. I know you didn't say this, Dr. Strayhorn, but, was the person running past white people to get to the one person that looked like they were a person of color? I don't know, but it makes you think about things like that, because we have this narrative of who we believe to be dangerous, who we believe to be accepted, who we believe to be legit or legitimized, or who we believe to be, safe. And so having all of this happen and having guns pulled and doors barricaded and people rushed out and stuff like this. It was just a national embarrassment. So I know I don't really have a good transition to our campus from that. We don't have that privilege, Dr. Strayhorn, to not, in my opinion, to not have students back on campus. We took that hit in the fall. Not having we're like 92% residential. So you can imagine how that would be impactful to us to not have students on campus. And students really want to be on campus. And one of the things that I do in my position is that I actually have exit interviews with students. And like people were like, well, this school is in there, regardless to the fact that they're living in the dorms and they're taking most of their classes online, they're like, but they're in. So I think it was like a part of the prompting of how are we going to do this? How do we think creative? Much of the same things that Dr. Stringer talked about is what we're doing. I mean, our faculty, they did, I think, an amazing job going online in the middle of the semester last year, when we thought we were sending them home for 2 weeks and it ended up being for the rest of the semester. And then being, completely remote for the fall semester. It was like we have to have them back. We have to figure out how to make this work. We can't see what's ahead. We don't know how long this is going to be. So I applaud those that had the minds to put together some kind of plan to mitigate sort of the spread of COVID on our campuses. All of our meetings are going to be virtual. I'm working from home currently. And they have this very elaborate way in which students who are going to be living on campus are coming to campus a little bit early. Like I said, they'll be there on Monday. Wow. They will all be tested. And so there's a CART period, campus arrival restriction period. Their first few classes will be online. So we can get a baseline testing for people and then start the testing up for the semester. We don't have a spring break in the formal sense that we used to have it. It's now been combined with our Easter break. You know, we're Catholic, so we're gonna celebrate Easter, and so our spring break and Easter break are together now, and students have the option of being fully remote or actually doing a hybrid system where you're sort of guaranteed at least to have one face-to-face meeting a week. But our numbers are just starting to trend as the numbers of COVID are going up. Some of the students are deciding that, you know what, I think I'll just do remote. And so we could be close to a fourth of the student population we're not there yet, but we could get really close to a fourth of the student population saying, we're going to be remote. We're going to be remote. So those are some of the things that we've put in place. But you're right, Dr. Strayhorn. Every school doesn't have the luxury to be able to sort of say, we're not going back. And so we have to figure out ways in which to do that. I think it also helps that the research seems to bear out that that age group, traditional age group, doesn't seem to be as affected as other age groups. So that might also help in making some of the decisions for that.
You know, to connect the two pieces, it just dawned on me. This is what makes January 6th so problematic, right? So we're in the middle of this global pandemic. We're trying to get our arms around that as a nation. We've got trial vaccines that have been authorized for emergency use, several more in production. Schools, I mean, we're talking about colleges and universities right now, but public schools are also trying to figure out what to do. So the learner, whether they are kindergartner all the way up to graduate school, is all being affected by the pandemic, just like all of us are. Many people are out of work, haven't had work because of the pandemic. And there are folks who are looking for work. There are companies and businesses and restaurants that have closed. And in the middle of all of this, someone creates a super spreader event. It's like if you wanted to sort of just, I don't know what my grandmother used to do when she was alive, she would say, pour gasoline on a fire. If you wanted to do that, you had to sit home and think about it. You say, oh my goodness, why don't I get a whole bunch of people? I mean, I was reading a story the other day. One of the guys from Kansas drove, to the Capitol for his event. Well, guess what? He took, without a mask on, he was there in that event. He took all that back to Kansas. Right. And now it's spreading. Every place he stopped for gas or for a snack, he carried whatever he had on him with him. And that may cause, so there will, mark my word, there will be cases of COVID as a result of that super spreader event that may cause outbreaks that continue to prolong this pandemic and likely impact many of our social institutions, whether that's churches reopening or restaurants reopening or even schools. And so just irresponsible. It is an embarrassing day. It's a day of infamy. It's a problem with democracy, but it's also, just so irresponsible of, the individual who sent the tweet and said, big, protest, be there. It'll be wild. Well, it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally irresponsible. And that's why we are in the shape that we are in today. If anyone has heard me on the episodes prior to or any of the seminars I've been a part of, I have said the number one factor of why we are in the position that we're in today is due to poor leadership. I have not bitten my tongue about that. It is due to poor leadership. And whether you're in the well, anyway, I'm not going to go through the organizations, but it starts at the head. It's not just with the president, but there's others that have not demonstrated the courage and the confidence that we need as we go through this pandemic. And so I am so hopeful that with a change in the guard coming up on January 20th, that we will see more people standing up and wanting to do the right thing so that we can end this pandemic, end this national embarrassment when it comes to assaults on our Constitution, assaults on our democracy. I keep using that word assault because I think that sums it up pretty well, actually. I want to transition just a little bit here because this is a new year, and I want you both to speak to people who are struggling as to whether or not should they go back to school. I was talking with some of my colleagues even yesterday and telling them about the show, and one of them was talking about the group that she was in with different parents and how they are really struggling about whether or not their children not just go back to the college campus, but whether or not should their children even pursue higher education right through here. That is something to think about, that this turmoil that we are going through right now has literally stifled people from wanting to pursue their dreams, wanting to pursue or go after something that they really want to do and better themselves, which is through higher education. So I want you to speak to people right now about that. I want you to think about, and those who are listening, I want you to think about who needs to hear this right now, because these gentlemen are about to speak some inspiration, some insight as to how we move past the fear, past the anxiety, so that you will continue, hopefully, to move forward into higher education. So, Dr. Parker, you want to jump off and start us out with that?
Well, that's interesting because I was, thank you for calling me first. Not really. So the question is around, should students or any students, should they, I guess, college age students or college students, is that what we're saying? Mm-hmm. College students. It's a very interesting time right now. I work at a private institution that does not have, there's a nice price tag on it. And so students have to do, in my estimation, sort of a full assessment, a complete discernment about where they need to go. I think there's a lot of undercurrent. And Dr. Strayhorn probably knows even better, is that there's been this undercurrent, almost like it's like a tide against higher education. It didn't just start, but it definitely has been in the last 4 years about whether people need to go, what do you need to do? And I think a lot of that has to do with how divisions have been sort of highlighted in ways. But for some students, I would say, if you were like I am, like I was, first generation college student, and I didn't really have like any other innovative way in which I was going to be able to support myself, I think higher education is a good way in which for you to do that. But for some students, you might have to find the economical way to do that, because you can't just say you're going to be able to just do that. Like, some students that I currently work with, financially, it can be very challenging for them right now. Because we are in a pandemic, but for them it was challenging before the pandemic,
right? And
now it's become more challenging. So being able to think through, discern what it is that you feel that you need to be doing in this time, I think is also critically important. I would say to those that are concerned about whether they should keep their dreams, I would always encourage you to keep dreaming. Always keep dreaming. even if it doesn't appear that the things are unfolding in the ways in which you want them to unfold in this moment, keep dreaming, keep writing it down. I've just happened to, oh God, here's a book plug, reading a book for a committee that I'm on called The Master Plan. It's by Chris Wilson, a guy who was actually given a life sentence at the age of 17, and he is now out and a productive citizen right here in the Baltimore area. And so, but he talks about, creating a master plan when he didn't look like he would ever get out of prison, So, and in a lot of ways, you cannot beat the odds if you just play into them. You know what I'm saying? Like if you just say, I'm gonna throw in the towel, you're not gonna ever beat the odds. You're not gonna ever get able to move from where you are. So I would encourage people to hold on to your dreams. Some of the things that you are dreaming right now, your life can actually far exceed it, but you got to work hard at it. So.
Good. Wow. Yeah. Come on, Dr. Strayhorn.
That was a drop mic moment. You should have had a mic and just dropped it. No, it's such a good point. And so let me make sure I'm clear on my assignment here. First is to speak to about people going back to school. So let me just say, with no reservation whatsoever, absolutely, if you are thinking about going back to school, if you have dreams of going to school, if you're wondering if you should return this semester, let me say, a bulk of my scholarly research is on sense of belonging. And so to those who are listening or watch the recording, you belong in school, you belong in college. If that's what you want to do, COVID shouldn't stop you. You had a vision and a destination and a dream before we had a global pandemic. And so just because a global pandemic came along, they ain't got nothing to do with you and your plans. You've got to just trust and keep your eye focused on the destination. I say that because what I'm learning, again, our classes start, they open up on Monday. And, some of our students are giving us some insights that, they never dreamed of going to school online. They always thought they would have the on-campus experience. They would, hang out at homecoming and so forth. And I want that for every student who wants that for themselves. By the same token, no one anticipated that this would happen. And to be quite honest, none of us know when it's going to be done. And so you don't want to, I'm already hearing that some students are thinking about taking a gap semester. So we know about gap year, between high school and college. Now more college students, not just at our school, all across the country, are talking about taking a gap semester where they think they'll just wait out the spring semester and meet us back on campus in the fall. The question for those who are listening or who are working with college students or who advise college students is you got to push them to understand, what if we don't open up the same way in the fall? What if this pandemic, because of what happened on January 6th and the folks who went to DC and stormed the Capitol and took it back home, if we're still in this, now you've delayed your plan for a whole year, and it could be longer. So I would say, lean in for, give yourself some grace, give institutions grace. We're all trying to figure this out. We've got no script for working through this. We've never done it before. So we're trying our new pedagogies, and we're going to get better with time. So I would say to anyone who is thinking about going back to school, go back. If you are wanting to enter school, then you should apply. Find the program for you. If you are busy looking, would you say, Dr. Parker, shameless plug for a book? Let me just tell you, we open up on Monday, but if you are looking to go to a college, Virginia Union University will have you. You can apply right now for our undergraduate or our graduate programs. We got 5 new graduate programs, a master's in biology, a master's in public health. We have a master's in political science, an executive MBA that is 100% online, as well as a master's in hospitality management. Many will be familiar with our historic School of Theology. We've got a Master of Divinity and a doctorate in ministry. If you are interested in getting your master's in public health and you've got good grades and you're going to be hardworking, thanks to TikTok, we got $1 million. We can probably hook you up with a scholarship and pay for your degree. So you want to go to our website, buu.edu, go to the apply button, fill out that MPH, talk to our director of admissions, tell them I need to be in that MPH program. I want to be a TikTok scholar. You can make a little video for it as well. But I'm trying to tell you, this is the time. Let me tell you this before I close. Listen, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, let me say it the right way, President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will be able to stand up a very ambitious policy agenda, thanks to what happened in Georgia the other day. And so with majority Democrat in Congress, primarily in Senate, if you study the Biden-Harris policy agenda, they are talking about putting money into community colleges, pouring money into associate's degrees, making sure that they're putting money through Pell Grant. They're trying to double the Pell Grant amount. They want to pour money into minority serving institutions like HBCU. I would argue that actually there's no better time to go back to school than what we're about to witness over the next 4 years. So let's ride this wave. If you're thinking about it, go do it now, run to, and it doesn't have to be Virginia Union. There's so many wonderful institutions in this country, but, we're doing this now because we've seen a rise of interest amongst prospective students in public health. Why? Because everybody's living through the COVID crisis. And they're like, I want to be able to solve that problem in the future. You can get your MPH and solve problems. I'll stop there.
Wow.
You heard it from the provost. You heard it from the provost himself.
Man, I said I was done with school, but
I'm about to go back.
Come on.
Now I'm not too well versed on TikTok. I mean, I like watching the videos, but look, if I gotta create a TikTok video to get my education paid for, bro, sign me up, man. That's awesome.
Great. You actually don't have to create a video, but I will say, it's public information. TikTok has invested in a number of institutions. We are grateful because it supports their Health Heroes program, which is really born out of the COVID crisis. Yes. But it's going to primarily support students to go into our health sciences programs, our STEM programs, undergrad, and then those master's programs. We have others. This has been a banner year for very sizable gifts to historically Black colleges. And I'm very excited about what HBCUs will be able to do to create access to higher education for many. So if you're looking, you can go anywhere, but I definitely want to shout out all the HBCUs that do a remarkable job of training folks all across the country.
Absolutely. Oh man, we needed that question because there are so many people who literally they have stopped dreaming. They are doing what you just said about a gap year, gap semester, gap year, waiting for the pandemic to be over so they can be in person. And so I'm so grateful that we took this time because I really believe that someone will watch this, will hear this, someone will forward this to somebody and say, hey, listen to what Dr. Strayhorn said. Listen to what Dr. Parker said. You need to get back on that horse and let's get forward and move forward and get that degree, get that education. This is a wonderful time. I also can attest to the amount of monies that are going into certain organizations. The Black Mental Health Alliance, which we highlighted at the very beginning of this episode, there have been generous donations this year, and it will be public record because we're a non-for-profit 501c3. This year, in 9 months, we are approaching $1 million in fundraising. Never have we done that before, and again, it's a great testament to the leadership of Andrea and those who are working alongside her. And so, I tell you, this is an awesome time. So yes, we're in the middle of some bad, dark days, but I always like to end our episodes with some hope. It's going to be hard because one of the things, and I'm going to end on this, is that what I'm hearing is with everybody being online now, it's kind of leveled the playing field. If you think about it, people used to be embarrassed, well, at least some people I know, they were embarrassed talking about their online degree, University of Phoenix or Phoenix University. And so now everybody is online. Anybody want to speak to that? It's kind of ironic, Harvard, the Ivy Leagues, everybody's online. So I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that, but I also want to have you just very quickly address, is this now going to shape how people will be able to utilize those degrees moving forward? That's a question that I've been really struggling with now. Now that everybody is doing everything online, will this somehow change a person's ability to actually perform what they have learned? And like for medicine, can we do everything in medical school through virtual learning? No. But will it affect their scores? Will it affect the knowledge base? So just throwing it out there real quickly. Is anybody have any comments on that?
Sure. I think that there are a couple of things that hit my mind as you were talking. One is, it has sort of changed the field. I don't know if it's leveled it, but it certainly has changed the field where, you're right. I know lots of folks who made judgments about people who were once getting their degree online, thinking that it might not be as rigorous as a degree or experience. And then COVID happened and now everybody's online. And so where we started seeing some changes around student choice, so students realize, wait a minute, I don't have to go all the way over there to go to school. Everybody's online. I can attend anywhere in the country. So I think we saw some shifts around student choice and student enrollment as a result of that. Here's another thing that I think we have a lot to learn at higher education in years to come. I know maybe Dr. Parker's the same. I've talked to not only colleges and universities, but some higher ed associations and businesses in the higher ed industry who have said, listen, we have realized, because of COVID, people haven't been in the office. They've been working from home. There are some higher ed associations and agencies who will never go back to being in the office. They realize they don't need to be. And look at how much cost savings in overhead and operations and rent space that they've saved. So I think for the next couple of years, higher ed as an enterprise is going to be reconsidering its business model and what's essential and what's not essential. And I mean, do we have to have all courses on campus, or might we, even after COVID, really maximize our online delivery to serve different segments and different markets? Now, in terms of people's ability, I would want to believe that no, people can still use their degree to create opportunities for themselves, to experience advancement on their jobs, to go on to graduate school. But here's what I do think is going to happen is that we're already seeing where, because of COVID, many institutions waived or removed some of the restrictions for admission. So they dropped test score or entrance exam requirements. They changed the minimum GPAs that are required. I think higher ed is going to settle in and think about this. Do we really need to reinstitute that? I think we might witness a change where we won't rely so much on the test score anymore. There could be, there have always been graduate programs that didn't require the GRE, some undergraduate programs that didn't require the SAT or the ACT. I think those numbers will swell as a result of what we're realizing through this pandemic. Tag in Dr. Parker.
Gotcha. You're muted, Dr. Parker.
Our experience at Loyola, we've been sort of the test optional for a minute now. And I've been seeing a lot in the Chronicle around that very issue, because we know that the tests generally have disadvantaged students of color and students from low economic status. And so, but I think you're right. Like, I think there is a reshaping of higher education, and I think it's for the better. And now with this push for looking at how equity really plays a part, like beyond diversity, beyond just having the numbers, what does it mean? How do you support students? Not just, and I'm going back to something Dr. Shepard said, not just a traditional age college student, but even our veterans and those that are coming back. I think we're going to have to be a lot more creative than we've been in the past, to make sure that we are able to sort of educate the masses as they come back. But yeah, those are just some of the thoughts that I was thinking.
Gotcha. Well, this is good. This is awesome. I'm going to try to put a nice little bow on this, tie it all together. And we really have done just that. This discussion is going to actually continue on. As I was planning this out, I was like, we have to continue this discussion next week. So I'm already lining up some guests that will continue to talk more about how this is going to play out on college campuses. And I look to have Dr. Strayhorn and Dr. Parker back so they can give us a follow-up and an update on how Virginia Union and how Loyola was able to successfully navigate through the winter-spring semester of 2021. Let me all tell you out there, this is a difficult time, but we will make it through it. That's essentially what I want to say here. We will make it through it. I must again acknowledge my company, Hope Health Systems, which is a large mental health organization based out in Maryland, Woodlawn, Maryland, where I serve as Chief Medical Director. We'll do you some good if you are in need of direct care services. I am excited, you all. I was able to get an appointment for the COVID-19 vaccine. By this time next week, I will have hopefully taken it. And I'll be right here looking at you all the same way. No appendages or all this other weird stuff up here that people are concerned about. No chip inside of me. I know you're looking at me, Dr. Yes, I'm here that people think that they're going to put a chip inside of me or put a chip inside of you when they give you the vaccine. There's no chip inside the vaccine. I'm not going to grow two heads. I'm not going to grow another head or another arm or whatever. This is some stuff I just laugh at and just smile, just like I'm smiling right now. But I understand that there are fears, and I don't want to make light of any fears. But I want people to know that you have a trusted source, a trusted resource here. And you have heard two gentlemen who I admire and trust when it comes to sending your children back to college. For those who are of age, older age, you're pursuing those higher education degrees. We encourage you. We push you forward. The pandemic should not stop you. We should not get stuck in this time. I tell you, someone is already saying that they got to go back and catch the replay because Dr. Strayhorn was on. You want to do that also because Dr. Parker was on. This was an awesome episode. I tell you, Dr. Strayhorn and Parker, I get double the number of hits through replays. So I'm not even worried. Actually, we're about triple now. So I'm not even worried that people are going to hear this information. But I want to emphasize that we push you forward, even in the midst of this pandemic. When it's your turn to get the vaccine, let's line up. Let's get it. We're going to continue to address the fears that people have. We know it's real. But we wanted to bring this show to you today to talk about the impact of the rampage on the Capitol and the COVID-19 pandemic on our college campuses. And hopefully you were helped, enlightened. I thought it was very insightful. Again, thank you, Dr. Strayhorn. Thank you, Dr. Parker. I want you all to stay put real quick as I get ready to close us out here. Again, Hope Health Systems, 410-265-8737. That's our number. HopeHealthSystems.com. You can go on there and get registered for intake. If you know that this thing is just too much, you're overwhelmed, you need somebody to talk to. Dr. Parker works at Hope Health Systems. I failed to mention that. That's his part-time job, Dr. Strayhorn. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. Got to figure out how I can get in on the support of this. But no, I was going to say, Hope Health System. Great name. Hope Health Systems. If anybody needs anything right now, it's Hope. And so, I know that it's a hard time, it's a dark time and all of that, but I echo, thank you, Dr. Shepard, for all that you do, your leadership, for your team. But hey, everybody out there, hang on and hang on to hope. Do not allow the circumstances of this present moment to eclipse your hope. That is all you've got. I have told myself today, as I look at this launch of classes on Monday and that I will laugh even when I don't feel like it, that I will smile, though I sometimes wonder if I want to cry, that I will, walk in the sunlight, that I will sing when nobody's watching, because I refuse to allow the joy, the light that all of us have to be overcome by the darkness of this age. And so to everybody who's listening or who will watch this episode, I would just dare you to declare, that as Dr. Shepard said, it's a new year. It may not be a new season, but you could be a new season for you today. You can say, I am going to declare that it's going to be a new season in my life. I will not be down. I will not be sad. I will not feel threatened. I will not be insecure. I'm going to hang on to it, because the moment you give into it, it has power over you. But pulling together anyway, we'll have hope. Yeah.
Preach, Strayhorn.
Well, all right, wonderful. I dare not ask Dr. Parker. You want to give a little bit of hope there, or you good?
I'm just gonna say ditto and amen.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all. Please be safe. I have 4 now. I used to have 4. I used to have 3 W's. It's 4 W's now. Wear your mask, wash your hands, watch your distance, and wait on gatherings. It's 4 W's now. So with that said, we're signing off. We'll see you next week. Let somebody know about Ask the Doctors broadcast, 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, each and every single Friday. Again, we'll see you. Please be safe. Thank you.